Welcome to the Plant-Based Podcast. Did you know that plants are truly amazing? Not only can you grow them and eat them, you can also wear them, drink them, nourish your skin with them, and so much more. Let Ellen and Michael inspire you to love plants as much as they do, as they chat with the movers and shakers in this wonderful plant-based world. So, let's dig in.
Hello and welcome to the Plant-Based Podcast, brought to you by me, Ellen Mary, and Michael Perry. We should all be cautious of caring for our environment and making small, sustainable changes in our daily lives. So why not start by making delicious changes? Stoneleigh Wines create their premium wine in New Zealand, and it's made from 100% sustainably sourced grapes, and it's vegan certified. Stoneleigh Sauvignon Blanc expresses the vibrancy and fresh flavours of the Marlborough region through their minimal intervention winemaking philosophy and collaboration with nature. We have a unique discount for our listeners. You can get 20% off Stoneleigh Sauvignon Blanc exclusively on Amazon using the code STONELEIGH20, STONELEIGH20.
Whether you are new to flower essences and in need of emotional support, ready for a change, or just interested about how flower essences can help, Saskia can help you and will find what you are looking for as we uncover the world of flower essences. How exciting.
Welcome, Saskia. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Really nice to be here.
I'm sorry, 85% of that was actually lifted directly from your website, and I've just stitched up Ellen by getting her to read it out. But I think it just sums up so well what flower essences are about and what we're going to learn here today. And we're going to ask a lot of questions the same way that a listener would as well. There's a lot of kind of unknowns and kind of real wonderingments that we've got today. But first of all, we want to start to get to know you. And this is a slightly new thing for our new series of the podcast. So we've got a bit of a quick fire question round. Okay, so it'll get you warmed up, but you've got to answer super quickly. We just did the interview with someone who was frankly far too slow. So you need to really knee-jerk with these answers, okay? Ellen's going to kick things off. Go, Ellen.
All right, here we go. Peanut butter or Marmite?
Marmite.
Guacamole or salsa?
Salsa. I can't bear avocados. I can't. Anything I really do make my stomach retch. So that's easy.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Oh, messy desk or clean desk?
I'd like to say clean desk, but unfortunately, no, it's not really.
Morning bird or night owl?
A bit in between. I'm definitely not a morning person, but I also go to bed reasonably early too. So I'm good. I'm good in the middle. It's perfect for me, actually. It's interesting how people. It's something to look at. That I look at when I get people to choose essences. It's whether they're morning. Yeah.
Okay. Biscuits or brownies?
Biscuits.
Okay.
Mowing or weeding? Weeding. I used to have a garden where I used to work with a really nice guy, and he was a much more organised than me, and I used to do mowing and I do the weeding.
That was a good system. So your final one is peonies or penstemon?
Peonies.
Yay! Oh. There we go.
Now you're officially into the podcast.
Yeah, here we go. That was really good. Thank you so much. So Saskia, we would love to know a little bit more about you, where when you first became interested in plants to begin with. So a little bit of history.
It's interesting when you look back on your story, isn't it? When interested in plants right from the very beginning. In fact, I recently did a talk at the Flower Essence Conference, and I had a little picture of me when I was about 5 or 6 peering behind a tree. And I was always asking the names of flowers when I went on walks. We lived in Stroud in the Cotswolds, and the hills and valleys there were just filled with wildflowers. And so I was always asking the name of wildflowers. However, my first job that I got, because my mum said I had to get a job or move out, was gardening for Prince Michael of Kent. In fact, because I could walk up there from where I lived. And a car at the time. So, and I thought, how hard can gardening be? My dad was a professional gardener, kind of grew vegetables, although his being's kind of much more politician, but he did gardening as a job. And my mum's mum, my favourite granny, she was a gardener, a proper gardener, so I spent a lot of time in her garden while she was, we were playing while she was weeding and stuff. So it's kind of in my bones, but I didn't really think if I'd have a career out of it. But as soon as I started gardening in this job that I blagged my way into, because I had no experience at all, I realised that plants were my thing.
Yay!
Yeah. So I carried on the gardening path for quite a while, and got to know the plants on a much more physical level. And then became a florist. I was a florist for the Prince of Wales for a long time. I'm not quite sure I can bring myself to call him the king. It sounds very strange. Because I grew up. I was in Gloucestershire. It was royals in that kind of royal triangle, Tetbury and Stroud and Princess Anne at can't remember the name of it. Anyway, that's besides the point. The point is that through my gardening and floristry and getting on with having small children and a relationship and being in my mid-30s, I needed flower essences. I heard of the bark flower remedies. Growing up in Stroud was quite an alternative place, but there were bark flower practitioners there that I knew, but I hadn't really taken much notice of them at the time, besides giving my kids rescue remedy when they fell over. But a friend of mine who trained as a homeopath, one day she said, when our lives were kind of feeling like they were falling apart, she said, I've just come across these Australian bush flower remedies, and I think they could really help us from what I've read. They sold them in Neil's Yard at the time, and they worked. Basically, within a few weeks, our lives were not back on track. Obviously, it's an ongoing path, but yeah, they really sorted us out. However, they didn't. They grew from plants I didn't know. They were Australian plants, and I didn't. Besides the eucalyptus and kangaroo porphyry that we kind of have in our gardens now, it's a completely different branch of the plant world. And we didn't have loads of money, so we couldn't afford all the ones that we wanted desperately. And it's a very simple process to make flower essences. Actually, we read a book the guy had written about them, a guy called Ian White, about his flower essences, and it was easier than making croissants or bread or jam.
Oh, really? Well, we're going to come to you for a recipe shortly, but I think at this point we really need to tell the listener what is a flower essence? Because I think the first time someone hears that or they see the bottles, they think it's an essential oil or something that you put on the potpourri. What exactly is a flower essence?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a big problem I have in what I do now, in that there is still this, because of the words. They used to be called flower remedies, and for legal reasons, they're not allowed to call them flower remedies anymore because it implies that they work. They're a remedy, and they do work, but... Yeah. It's one of those things. But anyway, so they got changed to flower essences, and now, of course, there's the constant confusion because they come in little bottles like essential oils that they are, that essential oil thing. However, they're completely the opposite end of the scale. If you imagine a flower, an essential oil contains the maximum amount of plant material you can possibly get into a liquid. It takes so many plants to make, even I think it takes 60,000 roses to make an ounce of rose essential oil. It's a massive amount. And with flower essences, in a flower essence, it's the vibration of the plant that is held in the liquid. So it contains no material matter. And you usually take those drops as drops under the tongue. Most people will have heard of rescue remedy. So we're talking basically like rescue remedy. So there's no taste apart from the alcohol that they're preserved in, and they contain no material matter, which kind of sounds a bit woo-woo because we're talking about vibrational medicine and taking a vibration into your body, except that nobody queries the fact that when you listen to a record or a CD, you're listening to someone who's sang 50 years ago sometimes, and that song is coming as a vibration through the airwaves into your ear and then into your body and changing how you feel. So basically, when you take a flower essence into your body, it's like the song of the flower that you're taking into your body, and you're hearing the song that it's got to give you and the lesson it's got to teach you.
Oh, this sounds so amazing, all of it. I completely get it. Oh, yeah, 100%. And you mentioned rescue remedy. Many years ago, I used to really hate flying. And I used to take rescue remedy in the weeks really running up to flying because I used to be so nervous and I used to have nightmares about it. If I had a flight booked, And it really genuinely calmed me. It really genuinely helped. And so I 100% have, the experience of that. So I completely agree. And the vibrational, aspect of plants and how that relates to us and our bodies. And we're constantly vibrating. Everything around us is constantly vibrating. So I think it makes perfect sense and not woo-woo at all. It's just that, science says how science says, and medications are sold instead. Do you know what I mean? Because of the money and whatever else. But that's a whole other thing, isn't it?
Politics of the medical industry. But
yeah, not for right now. But anyway, so obviously you are an expert at making flower remedies, and people can obviously come to you about that, which we just talk about later. But is it also possible to make essences at home? Because obviously that's very different to making, like you were saying, the oils, if you like, from flowers. What about making the essences? Is that possible?
Although I do actually do distilling, and I can teach people how to do distilling too. But that's
wow.
podcast. They are very simple to make. However, most people wouldn't necessarily be drawn to making them. You can make, and if anybody wants to get in touch, I can send you guidelines on how to make your own flower essence quite easily. Just email me and I'll send you the PDF with it on. But you can hold there's a bit of diluting going down, but basically if you've got a glass bowl of spring water and flowers that you feel are maybe not right in the middle of inner cities or growing by roads or whatever, if they're quite natural, naturally grown plants, you can float the flowers on spring water, and then you take the flowers out of the bowl of spring water after a few hours of it being in the sunshine. So the sunshine transfers the vibration between the water molecules. Water has this incredible ability to be able to hold a memory. There's quite a lot of research done into that. The way the molecules are held together, there's kind of gaps between the H2O kind of joiny bits. So the memory gets held in the water, and then you add alcohol on top into that to fix the memory in there. And then you need to dilute it down. So it's, from that mother essence that you've got, you can dilute it down so that it comes to the right level that your body can hear it. When it's just the mother essence, if you drank that liquid, besides getting drunk, if you drank that much, it wouldn't have much effect. If you then dilute it down, you only dilute it down twice. So it's not like homeopathy when it's diluted down like 600 times. You dilute it down twice. So you need a couple of bottles to dilute it down. But it's a very simple process. Yeah. So, in fact, Edward Bach, who developed the original system of Bach flower remedies, he wrote books explaining that this was the medicine for the people and that it was something that we could all do ourselves.
I've got to ask you something, but I'm sure Michael's dying to know, really. Is there a flower essence that will dissolve kidney stones?
I didn't think of that.
No, that is one thing with flower essences. It's mainly they help with our emotional issues. You might want to look at why you had kidney stones in the first place and why your body's holding on to the bits and not passing it through. And so why is it collecting as a thing? What's the resistance there? I would look at on an emotional level. But once you have actually got that thing, there are herbal things that can help. And I do know that you can drink an awful lot of olive oil, and sometimes that helps pass it.
I haven't read that yet.
I'm not going to tell you what, but if I remember my mum's Italian teacher, she had them and she really didn't want surgery, and she drank a litre of olive oil with bits of lemon juice in between when she got too much, and that made her pass them. But
wow.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're not here to talk about kidney stones. Sorry, that was a tangent that I've invited because I just had a problem.
That makes a change.
But with the essences then, how do we use them, and how often do we use them? How long do they store, for example? Do we store them in the fridge? What are the practical edges?
We don't really store them in the fridge. They're preserved in alcohol, so usually they're about half spring water, half alcohol. So on the sell-by dates on my essences, that's 5 years. So I probably wouldn't leave them on a sunny windowsill or kind of in your car where it gets hot and cold all the time. However, if they're just in your room, you definitely don't need to keep them in a fridge. The best place to keep them is somewhere where you'll see them, so you'll remember to take them. With regards how often you take them, again, like medication, we're used to being told what to do and when to do it. So if you're one of those people, you can take 7 drops twice a day. However, for as long as you want. I mean, you took them forever, they're not going to do you any harm. However, I would much rather people thought of them as having a relationship with the plant rather than taking the medicine of it. So a bit like a relationship, just when you first meet someone and you like them, you kind of want to see them every day, and then that'll wear off a bit, and then you go, oh, I don't think I need to see them anymore, and then suddenly you go, oh, I haven't seen so-and-so for ages, I'll give them a ring. So flower essence is again like that. Once they've shifted the initial thing you took them for to help with that issue, you can feel that that's shifted and you don't need it so much, and then it might kick back in. Old patterns, you can shift them, and then a month down the line you'll go, oh, I'm doing that thing again. Whatever the thing was, whether it's being anxious or not speaking up for yourself or not taking it.
Hello everyone, Lee Johnstone here, aka The Beardy Gardener, and I just want to say again what a thrill it is to be with you all and to be on this wonderful podcast. If you don't know much about me or who I am, I'm a mental health and gardening advocate. All of the work I do is around helping people connect with gardening to improve their well-being. And this is the second chance I've had to chat on this wonderful podcast. And today, I thought it would be interesting to talk about my Giving Garden project, which some of you may have heard a bit about. Some of you may be new to it, which is amazing. And I will tell you a little bit about where it started, where it's going, and what the future holds as well, and how you can make your own mini giving garden at home. So fundamentally, the idea came from my desire to help other people connect with gardening. And that came from the pandemic, as did most of my gardening journey. It formed itself there as a way to help me connect and heal. And I was guilty during the pandemic that I had a garden, but lots of other people I knew didn't. And how could I inspire them? How could I connect them with growing? So I got a couple of raised beds donated for my back garden, and people kindly donated their time, some seeds, as well as money to help get the Giving Garden started. And I picked 5 different plants, all of which had a connection to positive mental health or positivity. So a sunflower, for example, because of its sort of happy symbolism, calendula because of its medicinal uses, and there was either a connection with the plant being a symbolic expression of happiness and well-being, or it had medicinal historical purposes for being a cure for the blues or whatever it might have been. So there are several reasons why I picked the plants, and then I put them up onto a website, and I got people to nominate, friends, family members, colleagues, to have a plant grown in my garden in their name, really. So someone's friend could have nominated them to have a cornflower grown in my garden. They'd log onto the website, they'd say why they wanted that cornflower grown, and then they'd get regular updates from me as to how that plant was doing, all the way from putting the seed in the soil right through to, at the end of the giving journey and the growing journey, the last act of giving is saving the seeds or pressing the flower and sending that on to the person that was nominated. So there's a whole cycle of giving, really. So that's initially where the idea came from. And I had about 60 nominations last year. Loads of people were taking part, and it was a great, really wonderful thing to be involved with. And since this year, it's developed. So this year, not only are we doing, or am I doing, the same nomination process for the original Giving Garden, which is my own back garden, and I've got 3 raised beds that I grow stuff in, but also we're doing mini giving gardens across the country. So I managed to get several seed suppliers, and let me do a shout out to the seed suppliers actually, because they do deserve it. So we've got Mr. Fothergill's, we've got Chiltern Seeds, we've got Stocks and Green, we've got Jonathan Shepherd, who's a fantastic grower of Cosmos, who has the National Collection, and we have Sutton's as well, who have given me 3 packets of seeds, and we've given 50 packets of seeds out to people across the country to grow those plants in their own garden as symbols of positive hope and inspiration for someone they might know. And they got sent a plant label as well that sort of says the Giving Garden on it, and on the back gets them to describe who they're growing it for and why. And I'm really keen on those stories being shared as well. So I'm offering people the opportunity to share those stories with me online using the hashtag The Giving Garden, telling me about why they're growing the plants, who they're growing them for, and also to share in that happiness and create a bit of a community. So we've already had some wonderful nominations, not just for my original Giving Garden, but people growing across the country as well. And it's a really simple process, really. It's a really simple part of gardening that lots of people can do, I think. There's something really nice in sharing the growing of something together, and sharing that with someone. Giving to others is one of the 5 steps to well-being, which underpins the whole Giving Garden process. The 5 steps to well-being are an NHS thing that is about having all the 5 steps to well-being in place for you to be ultimately your best self, really. So the Giving Garden does that. And it does it in so many ways, actually, not just giving, but obviously being physically active is one of them. And obviously gardening does that. Learning new skills, getting people inspired to grow. That's one of the 5 steps to well-being. Giving to others. Obviously you're passing on, you're sharing pictures, photographs, maybe ultimately the seeds in the flower to someone else. And also paying attention to the present moment, mindfulness and taking notice and all the stuff I talked about the last episode is a 5 steps to well-being as well. So, and connecting with other people. Yeah. So all of those things are happening in the Giving Garden project. So if you want to create your own Giving Garden at home, you literally just have to grow something in someone's name, someone that you feel might be going through a bit of a rough time. There is nothing more powerful than someone else knowing you're thinking of them. And doing this is a really great way of making them feel loved and wanted. The other final thing I wanted to say about the Giving Garden is that I've just almost finished planting my first public Giving Garden, which will be at Festival Place Shopping Centre in Basingstoke, which is amazing. I hope to do more public spaces. And also I'm doing a interpretation of the Giving Garden at Hampton Court Flower Show this year. So very, very, very excited about that. The Giving Garden journey is flourishing and blooming, excuse the puns. But I hope you can join in with me. Nominations for my own original Giving Garden space have closed, but they'll open again in the spring. But do follow me online at Beardy Gardener. Have a look at the website, givinggarden.co.uk. And I look forward to speaking to you all soon. Happy gardening.
Is there any, I know what we were just talking about just before, a few kind of questions ago, but is there any medical research into flower essences at all?
Unfortunately, not much. And because they don't help with physical symptoms, it's a very subjective science. I don't think I put them into science. However, they have been used for Edward Berkeley died 1930 something, 1940 something, so nearly 100 years they've been being used, and people use them all the time, and they can feel the differences that they bring. So it's much more a word of mouth thing. Again, we've got the financial thing of not necessarily wanting to prove that they work, because then of course we can go out and make our own flower essences and shift all our own emotional stuff. Obviously, if you shift your emotional stuff, you become much physically healthier as well, because you don't have to store your...
Has anyone done any kind of independent tests along those lines, or?
Because they're so subjective, it's very difficult because you're dealing with people's emotions. If I gave you both the same essence, both of you wouldn't need it, so you would have different... You might not have any response. So it's very difficult, like with psychological stuff to get, and again, the finances aren't.
Of course. Is it fair to say that there's a large proportion of belief that you need to have involved in this as well, to kind of, believe in and trust?
You could put it down to in fact, one of my missions in life is to get more men taking essences. Women are much more open-minded. I hate to say it as massive generalization, I know, but the kind of wanting the scientific proof or the wanting the thing. So obviously there is if you are taking something that says on the bottle, breathe deep, seek peace, and you're intentionally taking it to help you relax and stop worrying, it's much more likely to work. However, if you give it to someone who doesn't know they're taking it, you're just kind of slipping it into someone's, cold drink in the evenings or whatever, and then they go, oh my God, I had a really good night's sleep last night. And you go, oh, well, maybe that was because I put that flower essence in your water. Or if you give them to children without them knowing, which is what I did early on, you can see the changes happening, and you can also give them to animals, and then you see the shifts happening with them as well, and they've no idea what they've been given.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
I think it's really interesting because I truly do believe that we store emotions in different areas of our body, and I'm desperately trying to get to the bottom of why I continuously get acid reflux, and because there is nothing wrong. So I've had all the tests, right, and I eat so healthily, and so I'm now at the point where I'm so sure it is stored emotion and trying to like clear that in some way. So now we're talking about flower essences. I might give that a go, I think.
I do this thing where I make people up their own personal blends. So if you can send me a photo and I can work on that for you.
That sounds amazing. Thank you. Actually, that brings me on to a really good question. So obviously you're saying that you would have a personal blend because one might work for one person but not for the other. But are there any kind of go-to plants, or flowers that you use in lots of different mixes for people? Is there something that really stands out as a great one?
That are my favorites and the most useful. I mean, we've got a range of 47 single flower essences, which then we've mixed up because I used to be a florist. I love mixing flowers together. So we've got a range of 9 flower essence blends, which are the easiest to choose because they've already got names. With the single essences, so some of the really useful ones are buttercup, which is really good for confidence, and wild garlic I use, which doesn't smell of garlic. So it brings this feeling of feeling safe and supported and looked after. So it takes away fear a lot of the time. So there are certain issues that modern life's kind of thrown at us that are dandelion's really useful again for being grounded and sunshiny and smiley. If you know plants, the flower essences make sense because you can see why a certain plant would do that thing, which again is why I'm using them from flowers that are growing around me, because I know, when you think of a dandelion, we know what the roots are like and we know what the flowers are like and how it makes us feel when we look at it. It makes you feel happier just looking at that yellow, doesn't it? And the same with buttercups and kind of an oak tree. You can kind of feel that solidity and the kind of slow pace of it and how it's knows about the cycles of life and has done.
Kind of like that maturity, isn't there, with an oak tree? I always think it's like it knows more than it's letting on, kind of protected, that kind of thing. You said about dandelions, this is a very good time of year to mention on the podcast to do not dig up your dandelions, do not mow over them, please leave the dandelions. Thank you very much.
You can go and sit with them instead and just sit there with your dandelions and feel their energy. Yeah,
definitely.
I just want to come back on Ellen. You said about Rescue Remedy. I don't quite know what is this product, and is that an essence, and why is that called a remedy if it's an essence? What is that?
It was made when they were still allowed to call them remedies, flower remedies. So the bark flower remedies, which were the original system, which was set up in the 30s, 40s, which you can buy in Boots and airports, supermarkets. So it's the most well-known blend. He only made one blend, and that was the Rescue Remedy, which is really good for. The best thing it's good for is physical shock and trauma. So if you've had an accident or you've just got off the phone with someone, you've heard really bad news or whatever, it's really good for that. However, I think if he'd lived longer, he would have made more blends. Probably the Calm and Confident would be better if you were kind of more anxious, or people take Rescue Remedy for like exams and being scared of the dentist and those kind of things, whereas there probably would be a better flower essence blend for that.
And did anyone else take on that work? Like in modern times, has anyone?
People carried on the bark. Yeah, I mean they carried on the bark flower essence work, the flower remedies. They were taken on by a woman after he died, and then they slowly got passed down in the 60s. And then there's a centre near Oxford where you can go and learn about them. And then Nelson's bought out the company, and now it's become a multinational, big, massive company. So they're more well known than you'd probably think. Once you get into that world, I think I'm used to. Luckily I see people. I've got a little shop in Wincanton, and people come and see me who wouldn't normally take flower essences. Obviously, there's a certain type of person who's open to the ideas and stuff. But people who've got issues, if you can't sleep, you'll take anything. However wacky it sounds, it's like, well, if it only cost me £12 in it, I'm going to be able to sleep after I take it. Worth it. And then once they realise they work, they're on it. They'll
Yeah. That must be really rewarding for you.
It's really rewarding,
Yeah.
actually. We made our first essence 20 years ago, and so I've kind of got to know my range pretty well by now. But now, it's like every day I get emails from people saying how amazing they are and how their kids have got their kids off to school without screaming at them, and they came back from school not having to stand up for themselves or whatever. All sorts of stories.
Yeah. And do you harvest all of your own on your own land, or is it from wildflowers, or how does that work?
Yeah, and again, as I said, because when you first make your flower essence, if you get and you dilute it down, if you get like a jam jar of your mother essence, that will make 10,000 bottles. So you're using really, really few flowers. So usually I get them out in nature. Some of them are from garden plants. Some of them we got when we were abroad. We made olive essence, for instance, in France. Yeah.
So you have your own shop, you just said. This sounds like the most amazing place to be. It's like one of those shops I would go in and just feel like I'm in heaven with all these little bottles of essences everywhere. Kind of, I think it would be amazing. Where is it, did you say?
Wincanton. You come and visit. Wincanton, kind of East Somerset.
Okay, amazing. Can I just...
online, obviously.
Okay. Can I ask you if you've had anyone who's come to you, someone who stands out, has come to you with an issue, and you've helped them with some great success? Is there anything that kind of just really, you just think, that's really helped that person?
Yeah, I have some favourite stories. In fact, if you look on the blends page on my website and slide down, there's some really good testimonials. But I had just after lockdown, there was a friend of mine in the town, her teenage son, he was kind of 18, 19, that kind of age. He had A-levels during lockdown, and it was really, teenage boys and girls. It was really hard, that lockdown bit. Anyway, he'd come to me for a personal blend, and I made him a personal blend, and he'd really, it really helped him. And then he came in later on with his mum, and she said, "Oh, should we get Saskia to make you up a new blend?" And I'd heard through her that there was a girl he fancied, and he kind of was scared of asking her out, or something wasn't happening, or she wasn't really interested, or whatever. Anyway, so I knew he was kind of going through this, will I ever get a girlfriend? Now we're not allowed to see anyone kind of feeling. Anyway, he said, I said, well, maybe, you could take the Sexy and Gorgeous essence, and it was kind of like, teenage boys, Sexy and Gorgeous, usually it's, women who take that one. But he kind of, his eyes started sparkling. I said, there was a bit of a sparkle. And I was like, go on. I said, I bet the next time I see you, there'll be girls walking down behind you in the street. Perky, a bit perky. Anyway, so he went off with the Sexy and Gorgeous, and 2 days later, I'd heard he got together with this girl that he liked.
Oh, no way.
And he did actually write me a really sweet piece saying that when he took it wasn't like he immediately went out and asked her out. But he said, I just immediately felt much more like myself. I kind of come back to myself, and I felt okay about myself, and more like, okay, well, why shouldn't I be able to ask her out? What does it? Why would she say no? I'm all right.
And kind of just gave him that confidence in himself.
Yeah.
They were together. I don't know if they're still together, but they were together quite a while, and it was just really nice, just to be able to. I have boys myself, and I know that teenage thing's just so hard. So I have.
And how nice to have a teenager then believing in a natural alternative remedy as well, and that's a really good practice to get into as well, because it's not all about reaching for drugs all the time,
Well, lots of things, the doctors, they can't help us with, really, and that boy, he'll know every time in life when there's something comes up that he can't deal with, he go, maybe there's some essences that could help me through, just as extra support and extra tools.
I think probably before we finish up, one thing we didn't touch on is kind of it's mostly for emotional support, isn't it? The range of different things that we might have going on mentally is kind of, it's not ever really for physical ailments, is it?
No. If you have physical ailments, it can help support you through an illness, just to give you support, or to help you, not feel so awful about it or depressed or whatever. And obviously, there's a lot more awareness now that how we are mentally leads down to how we are physically, like you were saying, Ellen. It's there's a lot more awareness. I think with emotions, if we don't express them, we have to store them in our body, because there's nowhere else for them to go, and then they get stored up, and eventually our body goes, oh, this is making me ill, basically.
It's all vibration. It's all energy.
Never
Like,
hide
where
it.
is it?
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't just dissipate. If you've not dealt with it, it's there somewhere. It's just energy somewhere in your body. So I think it all makes total sense. Oh, it's lovely chatting with you. It's really inspired me, actually. I'm kind of like, oh, I need to go and research a little bit more about flower essences. And also, having used that rescue remedy, or as it was called back then, I'm surprised at myself for not trying it since, to be honest, because it did genuinely work. So, where can listeners find out more about you, your website, your social media, that kind of thing? Where can they get in touch with you?
Well, luckily I was blessed with a very unusual name, so I'm Saskia Marjoram, and the flower essences are Saskia's flower essences. So if you remember the Saskia and you remember the flower essences, you'll find me. Sorry, that was weird. Yeah.
Such a cool name.
So www.saskiasfloweressences.com or at Saskia's Essences on social media.
Perfect, thank you. And also, your surname is literally the best surname to have.
There was a girl in my class at school with that surname as well, actually.
Was there? Too?
Yeah.
What were their Christian names?
Sarah Jane.
Sarah Jane Marden. No, I haven't heard of one, but there aren't many of us in the UK.
Yeah. That's so cool.
I spoke to somebody else the other day, and she was called Camellia Taylor, and she's a garden designer. And
cool.
I just thought, that's just like the best thing. I'm so upset my parents didn't name me a flower.
I can beat that with the PR girl at the Hoxton Hotel in London. She's called Plum Ruffles. That's the name of a heuchera variety. Plum Ruffles. It was an amazing name.
Oh, brilliant. Anyway, thank you so much, Saskia.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you. I hope it's inspired listeners to check out flower essences for emotional support. And get in touch with you. So
and more guys need to get involved as well.
Yeah, come on, guys.
More guys. Yeah, I'm hoping to bring out a range that are kind of marketed more towards guys. All essences are for everyone, but cool. I know there are blocks of for blokes. Maybe it's the packaging or just the colour of the bottles or just some little tweak and some different names. I'm going to come up with some blends that kind of focus more towards blokes.
Okay.
But yeah,
if you need some help, give me a shout.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
Any ideas, welcome.
Oh, thank you.
That's amazing. Come on, boys. Get your flower essences. Thank you, Saskia.
Cool. Speak to you soon, darling. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, my name is Megan, known as the Carnivorous Plant Girl on my Instagram and YouTube. I specialise in the subject of carnivorous plants in order to spread the message of the research, care and propagation surrounding these unique and wonderful plants. This is now my second contribution clip to the plant-based podcast, and in this month's clip I'll be talking about why spring is my favourite season for growing carnivorous plants. It is this time of year that the temperate carnivorous plants have broken dormancy now that the days are longer and warmer. Most of the plants start with flowers early on in the season, which include your Sarracenia, which is your North American pitcher plant, your Dionaea muscipula, which is your Venus flytrap, and both your Mexican and temperate Pinguicula, which is known as your butterworts. And also as well, you got your Drosera, which is your sundews. These flowers often come just after the rest of them flower, so more summertime, late spring, except from the pygmy sundews, which I find often flower a little earlier, as mine are all in flower about now, this time of year. The flowers on carnivorous plants are often unusual but very striking. So for example, Sarracenia have large flowers that are like an upside down umbrella, which is in order to store a load of pollen, which is obviously helpful for pollinators and doing crosses. And these flowers can grow large in size. So an example of this is a Sarracenia that I've got, and the cultivar is Adrian Slack's Maxima. These flowers are as large as my hand, sometimes even bigger, which have beautiful big petals which cascade down under that umbrella shape with such a nice, lovely flower to work with. Whilst Pinguicula, on the other hand, the flowers come in many colours, some of which are very vibrant, from bright pinks to almost neon purples. What's so interesting about some of the carnivorous plant flowers is that the stalks are often very tall, and this is so that pollinators such as bees and hoverflies do not get themselves trapped by the plants, and they can still pollinate flowers freely without obviously ever having the fear of being caught, and the Venus flytrap is a great example of this. This is the time of year I like to do my own crosses and hybrids, especially Sarracenia. I often do several of my own crosses, and in some years I've done up to 40 to 50 crosses, depending what plants I have in flower that year and what plants I wanted to create and what traits I would like to get from those plants. Pollinating Sarracenia is super easy, but you often have to wait up to 3 to 4 months until the seed is ready, and then it can be harvested. So I'll often pollinate my plants in May time, but the seeds won't be ready to be harvested until late September, sometimes even mid-October. Once sown from seed, they can also then take several years until you get a mature plant. However, for me, this is one of my favourite things to do, as you get to see the plants you've grown turn into something amazing. So what you've originally pollinated by hand, collected the seed and then sown yourself, sometimes we'll get into such an amazing kind of batch of plants that you'll get, and from that you may get a special plant which is completely unique from the others, and that plant is completely yours and is one of a kind as well. After flowering, the plants will continue to produce tons of new traps throughout the whole year, so you get to enjoy their true beauty once again. So after all the winter where they've been dormant, you've had nothing to see, they do produce some lovely displays over the summertime. If you wish to check out some of my plants and see what I do, or even find more about these amazing plants, then please feel free to give me a follow on my Instagram. I'll be posting a lot more now that the plants have all started growing again, so I'd like to also do a lot more propagating in this time too. If you'd like to learn how to care for the carnivorous plants or even how to propagate them, then please have a look at my YouTube channel, which is also under the name of Carnivorous Plant Girl, or even my blog, which is called The Carnivorous Greenhouse. Thank you all for listening to this month's episode of the podcast.
You're getting all twitchy. No, say no.
Anyway, we're at the retreat. Yay, finally.
Yeah.
And as always, you know I like to set the scene. Here's the scene. Michael's in the bath.
The outdoor bath.
There's an alfresco bath.
Amongst the trees.
Amongst the trees, it looks out to the fields. And Michael's the first one who's got in it.
Oh, so cool.
But just to confirm, I'm not in it. I'm standing outside of it.
Oh, Ellen, honestly, this retreat is beaut. You've really played a blinder.
Thank you.
Not that I thought it wouldn't be good, but it's just then, I don't know, then the visualization, the being here is just such a lovely site and location, and it's really nicely spread out, so you really feel like you are in the forest, because you've got then the kitchen and then the dining area and then the yoga area and then all the different houses. They're all like in different little spots, which is so cool.
Yeah, it is a lovely
I love
site.
it.
I'm so pleased.
I really do.
And
It's
also,
really cool.
you have been super, super busy, so I'm pleased that you're here spending some time chilling.
Thank you. But I did say to you, Ellen, I had like a very interesting theory actually about relaxing. I said, I really want to chop some vegetables, and you said, no, you're here to relax. And Ellen, I actually relax chopping vegetables. Because sometimes relaxing is about doing something out of your usual, what you have to do, I guess, isn't it?
I think it just depends on what level of relaxation you need and what relaxation is to you, you know?
But it turns out my timing was wrong, so I didn't chop any vegetables.
Well, I'm kind of pleased because you may have chopped your fingers off or something.
No.
Just
because you're not good at cooking, you assume I'm not.
You always say that, but I take real offence to it. My husband will tell you I'm a great cook.
Did you make those flapjacks?
Yes.
They're
you eat
really,
them?
really nice.
Oh, well, I can't cook.
Yeah. True. Did you make something with coconut in?
I have made...
When is that coming out?
Oh, coconut bites. I can put out actually whenever. You can have...
Cool. But do you know what, Ellen? I got one complaint about this retreat.
Okay.
You've got firelighters in a jar next to the cashew nuts, and I thought it was chocolate.
Did you put your hand in like it was
almost? I thought it was like dairy milk.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
But obviously, I'm excited about food, so someone else might not do that.
They are on the side with boxes and bags that say firelighters. To be fair.
Oh dear! But it is absolutely wonderful.
I'm pleased that you like it. Look, can you see all of the lambs and sheep out there in the fields?
Just all the sounds and everything.
Just all the signs of nature. And we've been doing Reiki and hypnotherapy.
On a mossy bed.
On a mossy bed, yeah, which was really nice with the birds singing. There was some sunshine through the trees.
I was in a yoga class. That was heavily subscribed.
That was good, wasn't it? I came in and looked in the door and it looked amazing. Like the teepee is round and the log burn is in the middle, so all the people were around it, and it looked really cool.
Oh my god,
really cool.
But I really because I still got this like trapped nerve that's so annoying, and I really like some of the like movement. What do you call it? The sphere of movement. I didn't necessarily have. I need to get some regular yoga. Actually, that was a good way to kickstart it. Actually,
yeah.
And Lucy was really cool. Actually,
Lucy is ace. So you can find Lucy online at Yoga with Lucy.
Yeah.
Yoga with Lucy A, and she's great. And then we've got Tatiana Massage. She's doing. Are you having a massage?
Maybe tomorrow if it fits.
Okay,
yeah.
Right. She's really cool as well. And then we've got Shannon, Diary of a Lady Gardener. She's doing mindful gardening. And then
what does that involve?
Well, it's like I think you're going to be doing seed balls and things like that, and tactile stuff.
Oh, there's a flower grounds area. You can do that anytime.
Yeah. So I put a little bit of foliage there with all the stuff, but you can just go and forage your own stuff to add to it and make your own flower crown. And what else do we have? We've got Donna from Pretty Cactus Plants
Is she coming when?
Tomorrow.
I love Donna.
She's doing a macrame.
I'm so excited.
Macrame.
What time's she coming?
She's coming in the morning, but the class workshop is at 1.
Oh, cool. Will she be here for Danishes?
Not that early. I don't know. She might be. And then
I wondered if she was coming.
We've got. I said Shannon, didn't I?
Yeah.
Ali, the duck patch is epic, basically.
Oh, she's really cool.
And she's doing loads of the cooking, if not all of it.
She's running the Folk magazine, right?
She runs a Garden Folk magazine with Gemma, who is here as well. And I'm doing the copy editing for it, so I'm checking over it. So after they've done it, they send it to me to check over anything, because I really wanted to help out. It's a community magazine. I think that's really cool.
What you should do is when you're copy editing one time, you should change all the pictures.
Just to see what she says.
It'd be so funny.
You win the bar.
I haven't been in that magazine yet, just saying.
Well, you always can be. You might get a spot now for sure.
Is it monthly? Or?
It's monthly, and it's a lot of work for them to do. So I'm really happy to help them out with that for sure.
I should, I like to promo that more.
Yeah, it's just a really digital. Nice. It's digital. It's like all it's.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. It's people like community stories, people writing from the Insta community, for them, which is really lovely. So yeah, that's really exciting. So they're here, and I've got friends Lindsay and Louise here are helping out in the kitchen as well. They're ace. I know I'm going to miss some, so I miss some of them really bad. Plot 81, Danny doing the foraging. She's epic. She runs a skate retreat here at the same venue as well, which is really cool.
This venue?
In October, yeah.
That's cool.
And it's really cool.
Skating in the forest.
So they put ramps in the forest and skate in the forest. It's very cool.
I love ramps.
It's a very cool retreat.
Your face.
Okay.
You're like, what the hell?
Okay. And yes, others.
So what else you been up to?
I haven't. This is it. Literally, this has consumed my life for the last
so
few
much.
weeks.
You must have been drowning in to-do lists, which, of course, everyone will know are our favourite things anyway. So that's not
I love
problem.
a to-do list, and then I take things off the to-do list and put them on another to-do list, and then I have like 3 lists.
Or I do even worse. I put them onto they're on my phone, and then I put them onto paper, and then I do some on the paper, then I put them back on the phone, because then I want to remind myself at a different time. And yesterday I was like, I've had a few days in Holland, and I hadn't really managed to stay on top of stuff, because it's not always easy, and I got so many different appointments when I'm away, and like sometimes I need to remember to have maybe just a morning in the hotel just to keep on top of what's happening, back at base, as it were. Totally. But I was really then, oh my God, yesterday I just felt like I was also sleep deprived because I've been on the ferry and doing a midnight shift and blah, blah. And then I did a series of to-do lists, which were immediate, tomorrow, Monday, but then also that one's okay for Tuesday because to space it out. And that's kind of, I've always got tons to do, but I kind of pace it, and that really helps you really kind of relax in the moment, to be honest.
I definitely.
So is there not a continuous list? It's kind of like, that's a list for then, that's a list for then. Yeah.
Continuous lists are difficult.
Yeah.
Because
they kind of
it feels like it's never ending. Yeah.
I think separate little lists is perfect. Someone's calling us.
Someone's calling.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's gone.
Who are they?
Well, I don't know, but I was just a little bit
double glazing?
worried that it stopped recording. Oh, no, it hasn't.
Oh, no, we're all right, darling. Don't you be worrying.
Just checking.
So that's been cool because I've been at the Kirkenhof and lost lovely things in Holland. We're doing a live broadcast next week.
You're going back to Holland?
QVC. Yeah, on
amazing.
Thursday.
There's not many people that get to go to Kirkenhof twice in a season.
I've already been twice in this last trip.
Yeah, but that was one trip twice. 2 trips.
Yeah, true, but different days. I went in on different days.
That is epic.
But
your pictures are amazing.
When it's raining, it's just like, oh my god, it's horrible because the bulbs don't glow. But it did, like the other day, it did cheer up a little bit later. But
Good.
Yeah, the planting is amazing, but everything's very slow this year.
Right.
Like, because in the north of Holland, it's a little bit cooler than the south, and the tulips are still green. They're not even with flowers on yet, which is really, really bad.
So has it been cold there for longer?
Yeah.
Like
well,
here, because winter
really.
seemed to drag on a lot, didn't it?
It's still only like, I appreciate I'm in the bath and we're at a retreat in the forest, but it's still only about like 12 degrees, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it gets to 14 and that's it.
Ish. It's like, that's still pretty cold, isn't it?
That is still true. And like overnight, it's like 4 and 6 degrees.
And yesterday the wind, oh my god.
It was windy and rainy here last night for sure.
Isn't it weird that we're so obsessed with tulips when actually they only flower for about 48 hours?
Right.
We're quite mad, really, aren't we?
And people complain about peonies.
They bloom for 48 hours before they're blown off, you know? Oh my god, it's mad.
Very good. Well, you've got tons of pictures and stuff online from the tulips, so definitely, if you're listening, go and check them out.
Making some cool reels of the really unique ones as well.
There's some really, really lovely ones there. There was a couple I was like, wow! Like
really?
that was really. There was a red one, but
the iridescent one.
That was one.
It's amazing.
That's amazing.
But it's sometimes with those tulips, it's not just, it's how they age, which makes them sexy.
Yeah, true.
Because that tulip was probably just a normal pink before it then opened and showed the iridescence as it aged.
Right.
So and I think sometimes you've been there in the William Alexander Pavilion, where they're indoors, and I think sometimes those tulips behave a bit differently as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Because when they open fully, I don't think you ever get that outside because they're probably blown to smithereens before they get to that stage.
That's true. Yeah, that's
But the parrot tulips, oh my god, the theatre of them is just insane.
I think they are an acquired taste, parrot tulips.
They're just mad.
They are funky, quirky things, and some people love them and some people don't.
But do you know what? I was talking to a lot of the suppliers there, and they were like, "Oh, why are people so mad about tulips? Why not daffodils? Because there's so much interesting stuff in daffodils." And
not so many colours though. That's
not so many colours, but a lot of different interest. And actually, if you think of them as a garden plant, they come back better in terms of perennial ability. Yeah, as well. Yeah, as well, and a lot more durable. But then I put this reel up about like new daffodils, and that actually went stratospheric more than the tulips.
Did it?
Yeah.
Stratospheric. Did you go viral?
Not quite viral.
What is viral anyway? Like,
I'm not sure.
I wonder.
Viral for me is more than 20,000 on a reel. Even though more than 5 on a reel would be unique, but I wouldn't think it was particularly exciting until
more than 5 views on my reels would be unique.
But you know, I'm never pandering to Instagram these days.
It's not worth it.
I put a picture, I'll put a reel, whatever.
Yeah, I agree.
What did someone say the other day? Oh God, what is this? This was a thing that someone was, oh God, and we've heard this so many times, but when people are like snobbish about people that grow plugs rather than seed. Yeah. And it's like sometimes
that
these
comes
things,
up every year.
Oh, in the plant world, it's like life's too short to worry about.
That comes up every year. Just
and when I was growing with my grandma, we weren't worrying about whether we were feeling guilty because we were growing plugs.
It's only social media that really encourages that kind of thing.
It's also a bit silly because there's a lot of stuff you can't grow from seed.
Yeah. Totally.
Because it's sterile.
If you
but then I guess
you
get in the whole of having a sterile plant there.
Or if your germination rate was poor, like there's a load of reasons. Or if you have no space to have seed trays everywhere, then just get plugs for sure.
Because like, you know, I know I'm a horticulturalist and all that, but I think seed trays in the bedroom is a bit
much. Very good.
Oh, melons.
Oh, well, this has been absolutely lovely. So I now have to go and do some more work.
You do? Have you got a sesh?
And I'm going to leave you here. No, because it's now 5:20 and we've got to cook the meals for this evening. Well, I think from 6:30 onwards. So they won't be ready bang on 6:30.
Are we having rissoles?
Well, you're going to have whatever I can find right now.
Really?
No. You'll see. All right then. I'm going to leave you soaking in the bath.
Thank you.
Enjoy yourself.
I'm going to wait till I get all wrinkly. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Stoneleigh Wines. Their premium wines in New Zealand are made from 100% sustainably sourced grapes, and they're vegan certified. Our favourite, the Stoneleigh Sauvignon Blanc, displays fresh and varietally true aromas of passion fruit and vibrant citrus and crisp notes. Yummy. We have an exclusive discount for listeners, and you can get 20% off Stoneleigh Sauvignon Blanc exclusively on Amazon when you use the code Stoneleigh20. The music for the Plant-Based podcast is part of the song Grow by Mikey James, and our editor is Gareth Patch of Semi Echo.